Hey man, let me tell you something that took me years of pain, rejection, and self-betrayal to finally understand. There's a breed of men that women cannot stop thinking about. They're not the richest, they're not the tallest, they're not even the most traditionally attractive, but there's something about them that creates a psychological grip so tight that women lose sleep, check their phones obsessively, and find themselves doing the one thing they swore they'd never do: chasing. And the secret isn't what these men do, it's what they refuse to do. It's the mindsets they carry that make them fundamentally different from the 95% of men out there who are starving for female validation and bleeding attention like an open wound. Today, I'm gonna break down 7 secret mindsets that separate men who get chased from men who spend their lives chasing. And I need you to understand something before we start. These aren't tricks, these aren't manipulation tactics. These are fundamental shifts in how you see yourself, women, and the entire game of attraction. Miss even one of these, and you'll keep falling into the same trap, but internalize all 7, and you become the man she can't forget, the man she tells her friends about, the man who got away because he was never trying to stay. Let's begin. The first mindset is the foundation of everything. He treats his silence like a weapon, not a weakness. Here's what happens when most men feel a woman pulling away. Panic, immediate, visceral panic. Their mind starts racing. Did I say something wrong? Is she losing interest? Gibor, should I text her? Should I call? Should I send something funny to break the tension? And so they reach out, they double text, they ask if everything's okay. They try to fill the void with words, attention, affection, anything to stop the silence from swallowing them whole. But the man who never chases? He does the opposite. When she goes cold, he goes colder. When she creates distance, he doesn't bridge it, he expands it, not out of spite, not out of games, but because he understands something most men never learn. Silence is a mirror. It reflects who she really is when she's not being pursued. It shows him whether she's genuinely interested or just collecting attention. It reveals her true investment level without him having to ask a single question. And here's the psychological trigger that makes this so powerful. When a man doesn't chase, when he doesn't fill the silence with desperation, a woman's mind begins working overtime. She starts wondering why he's different. Why isn't he doing what everyone else does? Is he talking to someone else? Does he even care? That uncertainty becomes obsession, and obsession becomes pursuit, because the absence of his attention creates a vacuum, and in that vacuum her imagination runs wild. She replays conversations, she analyzes his words, she checks when he was last online, all because he did nothing. Most men don't realize that their constant pursuit is actually the thing killing attraction. They think more effort equals more interest from her, but the truth is the opposite. The more you chase, the more you confirm that she's above you. The more you reach, the more she pulls away. But when you can sit in silence without crumbling, when you can watch her distance herself without scrambling to close the gap, you become something rare, something she can't predict, something she can't control, and that's when she starts chasing you. Now, what I'm about to tell you next is where most men completely destroy themselves. They think they understand this first mindset, but then they make one critical error that undoes everything. Stay with me, because this second mindset is what separates men who occasionally attract women from men who magnetically draw them in. The second mindset is this: he sees himself as the prize worth winning. Not her, not her body, not her approval, not her attention, him. Most men walk through life unconsciously placing women above themselves. They think if they can just be good enough, you're patient enough, understanding enough, she'll finally choose them. They pedestalize beauty, they worship attention, they treat a woman's interest as the ultimate validation of their worth. But the man who never chases has inverted this entire dynamic. He wakes up every day knowing that his time is valuable, his energy is limited, his attention is currency, and he doesn't spend that currency on anyone who hasn't demonstrated they deserve it. This isn't arrogance, it's clarity. He's seen what happens when you hand over your power to someone who hasn't earned it. You become a beggar at a table where you should be the king. You start performing for approval. You start editing yourself to fit her expectations. You slowly abandon who you are just to keep her interested. And the tragic irony? That's exactly what kills her interest. Women don't chase men they've already conquered. They don't obsess over men who worship them. They become addicted to men who have standards, men who aren't impressed by a pretty face alone, men who require substance, effort, and consistency before granting access to their world. So he doesn't bend his identity to win her favor. He doesn't abandon his purpose to chase her approval. He doesn't lower his standards just because she's attractive. Instead, he invites her to rise, to meet him where he stands, to prove that she's worthy of what he's offering. And if she can't, he doesn't beg, he doesn't negotiate, he keeps walking, because a man who knows his value never discounts himself for anyone. The third mindset cuts deep, but it's the truth. He uses detachment as a filter, not as punishment. Listen carefully, because this is where weak men and powerful men diverge completely. When most guys pull back from a woman, it's reactive, it's emotional, it's because they're hurt, bitter, or trying to teach her a lesson. But the man who never chases doesn't detach from emotion. He detaches from wisdom. He understands something brutal about human nature. People reveal who they truly are when they're not being pursued, when the pressure is off, when the performance isn't required. So he creates space, not to manipulate, but to observe. What does she do when he stops initiating? Does she reach out? Does she invest? Or does she simply disappear into the arms of whoever's giving her attention that week? He watches, he takes notes, he lets her actions write the story her words never could, because here's what most men don't realize. When the beginning of every relationship is a performance, she's showing you her highlight reel, her best behavior, the version of herself she wants you to see, but that's not who you're going to end up with. You're going to end up with her defaults. The way she handles conflict, the way she treats you when she's stressed, the way she acts when she doesn't get what she wants. Detachment reveals all of this. It strips away the performance and exposes the pattern. And the man who never chases would rather know the truth early than discover it after he's already invested his heart, his time, and his peace. So he pulls back. Not with announcements, not with explanations. He just creates distance and watches what fills it. If she rises, he pays attention. If she falls, he's grateful he found out before it cost him more. Now, here's where the psychology gets interesting. What I'm about to explain is why this detachment creates such a powerful effect on her mind. And once you understand this mechanism, you'll see exactly why women become obsessed with men who don't chase them. The fourth mindset is ruthless but effective. He never tries to out-emotion a woman. Let me paint you a picture. She's upset. Maybe she's throwing out accusations. Maybe she's being passive-aggressive. Maybe she's testing him with jealousy, playing up other guys, trying to trigger a reaction. What does the average man do? He engages, he defends himself, he gets louder, he matches her energy because somewhere in his mind he thinks if he can just explain himself well enough, if he can just win the argument, she'll finally understand. But he's already lost. The moment he steps onto her emotional battlefield, the war is over, because women have been navigating emotions since birth. It's their domain, it's where they're most powerful. They can argue longer, cry harder, twist words sharper, and if you try to fight them on that terrain, you will lose every single time. The man who never chases knows this, so he doesn't play. When she escalates, he de-escalates. When she gets dramatic, he gets calm. When she throws emotional grenades, he doesn't catch them. He lets them explode without flinching. And here's what this does to her psychologically. It completely disarms her playbook. She's used to men who react, men who get defensive, men who get jealous, insecure, emotionally volatile. When her tactics don't work on him, when she can't trigger the response she's looking for, something shifts in her brain. She realizes she can't control him, and that lack of control creates intrigue. That intrigue creates respect, and that respect creates an attraction so deep it almost scares her, because a man who can't be moved by emotional manipulation is a man she can't figure out. And what a woman can't figure out, she can't stop thinking about. He doesn't stay calm because he's cold. He stays calm because he's powerful. His emotions are his own, and no one gets to dictate them but him. The fifth mindset is what separates the desperate from the dangerous. He operates from abundance, never scarcity. Most men date like they're running out of time. They find one woman who shows interest, and suddenly their entire emotional world revolves around her. They become available on demand. They drop their plans. For they stop investing in themselves. They cling to one outcome, like their life depends on it, and women can feel that energy. It repels them. The man who never chases doesn't operate this way. His life is already full before she enters it. His purpose is clear. His mission is in motion. His days are filled with growth, ambition, and meaningful progress. He's not desperate for companionship because he's not running from himself. He's not starving for attention because his self-worth isn't fed by external validation. When a woman enters his world, she's not filling a void. She's adding to something already overflowing, and that's a fundamentally different energy. He can enjoy her presence without needing it. He can appreciate her beauty without worshipping it. He can connect deeply without becoming dependent. And if she leaves, his world doesn't collapse. His identity doesn't shatter. He continues forward because his foundation was never built on her in the first place. This abundance isn't about sleeping with dozens of women. It's not about emotional coldness or detachment from genuine connection. It's about having a life so rich, so purposeful, so internally grounded that no single person's presence or absence can destabilize you. And when she senses that you could walk away with peace in your heart, with a calm smile on your face, with zero need to convince her to stay, that's when something primal triggers inside her. Because she's used to being needed. She's used to being the center of someone's emotional universe. But you're offering something she rarely encounters. A man who wants her but doesn't need her, and want without need? See, that's the most attractive combination that exists. Now, what I'm about to tell you is the mindset that makes everything else work. Without this one, the other four crumble. This is the internal shift that creates the external results. The sixth mindset is this: he falls for patterns, never potential. This is where intelligent men get destroyed. They meet a woman who's amazing at the beginning. She's affectionate, she's attentive, she's everything they've been looking for, and they fall hard. But they're not falling for who she is. They're falling for who she's pretending to be. The man who never chases has learned this lesson the painful way. He's seen the transformation that happens once the honeymoon phase ends. He's watched sweet become selfish, affectionate become distant, attentive become dismissive. So now he watches. He doesn't get swept up in early chemistry. He doesn't confuse intensity for compatibility. He doesn't let a pretty face or a captivating personality blind him to behavioral red flags. He looks for patterns over time. How does she act when she doesn't get her way? How does she speak about her exes? Does she take responsibility for her life or blame everyone else? Does she respect his boundaries or constantly test them? He knows that potential is a sales pitch. Anyone can promise. Anyone can perform for a few weeks. But consistency over months? That's rare. That's real. So while other men are falling in love with a fantasy, he's grounded in reality. He's observing. He's testing. He's making sure that the woman he gives his heart to actually deserves it. And this protects him, not just from heartbreak, but from the soul-crushing experience of realizing you gave everything to someone who was never who she claimed to be. He dates with his eyes open, he filters with intention, and he only invests in women who prove through action over time that they're worth the investment. Here's something wild that happens when you actually start living by these mindsets. The effects go far beyond just attraction. What I'm about to break down in this final mindset is why some men become absolutely unforgettable while others fade from her memory within days. The seventh and final mindset is the backbone of it all. He's always willing to lose her to keep himself. This is where everything we've discussed comes together. Every mindset, every behavior, every psychological shift roots back to this one core truth. The man who never chases has made peace with walking away. He doesn't fear being alone. He doesn't fear rejection. He doesn't fear missing out on the one because he knows that anyone who can't meet his standards isn't the one anyway. This isn't bitterness. It's liberation. He says what needs to be said, even when it might push her away. He maintains his boundaries, even when she tests them. He refuses to shrink himself, dim his truth, or abandon his values just to keep someone around. Because he's seen what happens when men betray themselves for love. They become ghosts of who they used to be. They lose respect, first from her, then from themselves. They trade dignity for companionship and end up with neither. So he draws a line, not in anger, not in arrogance, but in absolute clarity about who he is and what he will accept. If she can rise to meet him, she earns a place beside him. If she can't, he walks. Without drama, without begging, without looking back. And this willingness to walk, it's the most attractive quality a man can possess because it signals something women can't resist. Self-respect so deep it can't be purchased with beauty. Confidence so grounded it can't be shaken by her absence. Identity so solid it exists independently of her approval. He doesn't need her to love him. He doesn't need her to choose him. He doesn't need her at all. And paradoxically, that's exactly why she can't stop thinking about him. Now let me tell you what happens when a man actually embodies all 7 of these mindsets. Because the transformation isn't just in how women respond to him, it's in who he becomes. When you internalize these mindsets, something fundamental shifts. You stop performing, you stop seeking, you stop treating every interaction as a test you need to pass. Instead, you become the test. You become the man who walks into a room and doesn't need to prove anything. The man who speaks with weight because his words aren't wasted on desperation. The man who can look at a beautiful woman and feel appreciation without losing his center. Women sense this immediately. It's not something you can fake. It's not something you can perform. It radiates from every word, every gesture, every silence. And here's the brutal truth that most men never accept. You cannot attract what you're chasing. The energy of pursuit is the energy of lack. And lack repels the very thing you're trying to attract. But when you stop chasing, when you become so grounded in your purpose, you're so secure in your value, so at peace with your own company that her presence becomes a preference rather than a necessity. That's when the game changes forever. She starts reaching out first. She starts wondering where you are. She starts investing, initiating, working to keep your attention because she senses you could walk away at any moment and be perfectly fine. You become the exception in her world, the one who didn't fold, the one who didn't worship, the one who saw through her beauty and demanded substance. And that kind of man? He doesn't chase, he doesn't beg, he doesn't negotiate for affection, he simply exists with power. And the right woman? She follows. Because while every other man gave her attention she never earned, you gave her something far more valuable, a man she couldn't move, a man she couldn't break. A man she'll spend months trying to figure out, and by the time she realizes what you are, it's already too late. She's hooked, not on your pursuit, but on your absence of need. And that, my friend, is the mindset that changes everything.